SCP-4544, the Circumventing Shoe Box. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-4544 is to remain within storage locker number 4032 at Site-14. To prevent the further extension of SCP-4544's anomalous capabilities, storage locker 4032 is to be guarded and monitored via video at all times. Any attempt to open or otherwise observe the contents of SCP-4544 is to be approved and overseen by Senior Researcher Dr. Brooks. Any attempt to open SCP-4544 outside of a testing environment is strictly forbidden and may result in disciplinary action. Warning: the use of anomalous objects to observe the contents of SCP-4544 is forbidden. See Document F-240. Description: SCP-4544 is a rectangular lidded container made of cardboard with a post-it note on the side reading, "Please do not open." Details about the contents of SCP-4544 are unknown. When any attempt is made to observe the contents of the container or remove the note, a seemingly unrelated event will occur to obstruct the attempt. SCP-4544 has demonstrated retrocausality editing capabilities, as these events may have taken place before the method of observation or removal is even conceived. Currently, the only known method of examining the contents is to weigh and shake the container, although this always yields results identical to an empty, non-anomalous shoebox. Following the results of the experiment in Document F-241, either SCP-4544 or the contents within have shown the ability to communicate when threatened with destruction. However, this line of testing has been postponed indefinitely. A proposal to change the item's class from Safe to Euclid in light of this experiment is currently pending review. As of Redacted, SCP-4544's anomalous properties have extended to the storage locker it is held within, rendering further testing nearly impossible. Addendum: Document F-239. Experiment Log Redacted. Proposal: these experiments are meant to provide the basic foundation for the exact nature of SCP-4544. With these experiments, we hope to replicate the behavior of SCP-4544 revealed upon its initial discovery, under laboratory conditions. Dr. Brooks. Proposal approved. Senior Researcher Dr. Redacted. Test Number 1. Success: No. Subject: D-936. Protocol: subject would be instructed to enter the research cell and lift the lid of SCP-4544. Results: the door of Research Cell 293C became jammed, and D-936 was due for testing at another location before staff was able to fix the door. Notes: we may have to get creative if we ever want to use Room 293C again. Dr. Brooks. Test Number 2. Success: No. Subjects: D-972 and D-254. Protocol: D-972 would be instructed to enter the research cell and prop open the door, but not to open SCP-4544 under risk of termination. D-254 would then be instructed to enter the research cell and open the lid of SCP-4544. Results: D-972 successfully entered the cell and propped open the door. However, D-254 failed to arrive at the testing location, as a small D-Class riot broke out 1 hour earlier, resulting in D-254's termination. Notes: it appears we are still able to interact with SCP-4544 as long as we do not intend to open it, but the extent of its anomalous capabilities is concerning. It may have caused the riot, or made us pick the D-Class that would be terminated. Dr. Brooks. Test Number 3. Success: No. Subject: D-972. Protocol: with the door of the research cell propped open, the subject would be instructed to enter the research cell and open the lid of SCP-4544. Results: the subject entered the cell but refused to open SCP-4544 upon discovering the results of the last experiment, and concluded that anyone who was going to open the box would die. The subject was threatened with termination if they did not comply, which resulted in D-972 attacking security, ending in the subject's termination. Notes: it is again unclear if SCP-4544 influenced the behavior of the subject, or if it somehow chose the subject against our knowledge. In the future, we must more carefully consider how the subject is likely to behave. Dr. Brooks. Document F-240. Experiment log redacted. Proposal: it is possible that the object's anomalous properties only prevent us from opening the container, not necessarily preventing us from learning what's inside. Therefore, an intangible SCP such as SCP-126 could potentially bypass any anomalous effects of the object. As SCP-126 has shown to be cooperative with Foundation staff, we propose using SCP-126 to observe the contents of SCP-4544. Dr. Brooks. Proposal approved. Senior Researcher Dr. Redacted. Test number 1. Success. No. Subjects: SCP-126 and D628. Protocol: SCP-126 and D628 would be instructed to enter the research cell, and D628 would be instructed to move the container into the region SCP-126's head occupies without opening the box. SCP-126 would then be instructed to describe the contents of the container. Results: D628 arrived at the testing location at 1335 without incident, and appeared cooperative when told what their instructions would be, and what SCP would be joining them within the experiment. At 1410, SCP-126 arrived without incident along with its handlers and expressed interest in aiding the researchers. As D628 and SCP-126 were being given the final briefing before the experiment, Senior Researcher Dr. Redacted began to convulse violently before collapsing and becoming catatonic. As staff attempted to resuscitate Dr. Redacted, the body became animate and revealed several spider-like appendages protruding from their back, characteristics consistent with the Stage 7 host of SCP-940. At 1443, Site-14 declared a biohazardous Keter-level containment breach, and Quarantine Procedure Orkin-4 was triggered, containing the SCP-940 host, staff, and subjects within the experiment observation room overlooking Cell 293-C. The SCP-940 host successfully infected the remaining staff members and D628 before being terminated by the security personnel present. Approximately 30 minutes after the quarantine was triggered, Mobile Task Force Omicron-7 entered the affected region and successfully administered an intravenous antiparasitic compound to the infected survivors and incinerated the remains of the SCP-940 host without further incident. After these events, SCP-126 expressed great agitation and an intense desire to not continue any further testing regarding SCP-4544. A staff psychologist was assigned to SCP-126 to help it cope with the events it had witnessed. Notes: an investigation revealed that Dr. Redacted became unknowingly infected with SCP-940 larvae 51 days prior to the experiment, 9 days before SCP-4544 came into Foundation custody. In addition, the faulty containment equipment for SCP-940 larvae that were found responsible for the containment breach was designed approximately 4 years prior to the experiment. This event has given evidence to the hypothesis that the more infallible of an attempt is made at viewing the contents of SCP-4544, the more extreme the retaliation becomes out of necessity. For this reason, the use of any anomalous objects to attempt to observe the contents of SCP-4544 is now prohibited, and any seemingly foolproof method of observing the contents of SCP-4544 are strongly advised against. Dr. Brooks. Document F-241. Experiment log redacted. Proposal: it has been made clear at this point that the contents of SCP-4544 cannot be observed by any conventional means. However, if the contents of SCP-4544 are indeed alive and sentient as suggested by the note, we may be able to encourage it to evacuate its current container in exchange for another, thereby providing a basis on which the Foundation may be able to communicate with SCP-4544. Researcher Klein. Proposal approved. Senior Researcher Dr. Brooks. Test number 1. Success. Undetermined. Protocol: The experiment is to be conducted in an observerless, non-recorded environment. SCP-4544 is to be placed in a remote-controlled hydraulic press, and a shoebox of matching dimensions is to be placed 50 centimeters away from the press. The press would then be triggered to impart a continuous 180 newtons of force on SCP-4544. Results: following the experiment, SCP-4544 was found to be fully intact and unscathed, while the press had been entirely and neatly disassembled through unknown means. While the experiment was in progress, researcher Klein had reportedly entered an absent seizure state and remained unresponsive to all stimuli for approximately 5 hours. Upon regaining the ability to talk, researcher Klein partially described what they had experienced while in the state and expressed that they had lost the ability to see. See interview log 1043. Upon examination, it was found that the phrase, "Leave me alone," had been engraved within researcher Klein's retinas. It should be of note that researcher Klein was remotely operating the machine approximately 50 meters away while the experiment was taking place. Notes: this is the first time SCP-4544 has shown the ability to manipulate its environment outside of its initial anomalous capabilities, and has even managed to communicate, albeit through a harmful medium. While this experiment has yielded interesting results, further testing along these lines would be unwise at best. Admittedly, subjecting this object to an experiment that could potentially destroy it can be seen to go against many of the Foundation principles, and therefore no more experiments of this nature will be approved. Dr. Brooks. Interview log 1043. Interviewed, Researcher Klein. Interviewer, Senior Researcher Dr. Brooks. Forward. This interview took place after the events of the experiment in Document 241, once Researcher Klein had gained their ability to talk. Begin log. Brooks, do you have any recollection of what took place 5 hours ago? Klein. Nah. Can you understand me, Klein? Sorry. Yes. Did you observe what's inside SCP-4544? Why are you so interested in what's inside the box? It doesn't want to hurt anyone, just forget about it. You are aware you were conducting the experiment, correct? It's not important. It's just a box. Whatever is inside clearly just wants to be left alone, so let it be. The outside world is a confusing and overwhelming place, and I don't blame it for just wanting to shut itself inside. Can you tell us more about your experience, at least? I'm sorry. The more I say, the more curious you'll get. I don't want this mistake to be repeated. Just shove the box into some deep storage locker and forget about it. I'm done with it. I don't want anything more to do with it. Now, would someone check out my eyes? I still can't see anything. I just want to forget about this whole thing. End log. Closing statement. After a medical examination, Researcher Klein was administered Class A amnestics at their own request. Thank you for listening to SCP-4544, the Circumventing Shoe Box. If you enjoyed this SCP, please like and subscribe, and follow the link in the description of the SCP Wiki, and vote it up to support it and the SCP Wiki as a whole.